Imagine coming home from work earlier than usual, tired, stressed, but relieved to finally see your family, only to walk through the front door and witness something that shatters your heart forever. That's exactly what happened to Daniel, a man who thought his life was ordinary, until the day everything changed. Daniel was a hard-working man in his mid-30s, a project manager at a construction firm. He lived in a modest but comfortable suburban home with his wife, Melissa, and their 6-year-old daughter, Emily. To outsiders, the family looked perfect. Melissa was a stay-at-home mom, always posting smiling photos online. Daniel was a provider, often working long hours, and Emily was the sunshine of their lives, a bright little girl who loved to draw and sing. But behind closed doors, cracks had been forming. Daniel often sensed a distance between him and Melissa. She wasn't the woman he married anymore, cold, impatient, sometimes snappish with Emily. He chalked it up to stress, to loneliness while he was gone, maybe even depression. He told himself it wasn't serious. But deep inside, something felt wrong. One Thursday evening, Daniel left work early. The company had finished a big project ahead of schedule, and for once, he didn't want to stay overtime. Instead, he wanted to surprise Melissa and Emily with their favorite dinner. He stopped at a small diner, picking up spaghetti and garlic bread, the meal that always made Emily giggle with joy. He pulled into the driveway quietly, smiling to himself as he imagined Emily running into his arms. But as soon as he stepped inside, that smile vanished. From the hallway, he heard a sound that froze his blood. Emily's muffled crying. Then Melissa's voice, sharp, angry, venomous. "You're so useless. Can't you do anything right? Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." Daniel's heart dropped. He moved quickly toward the living room, where the voices came from, and what he saw broke him apart. Melissa stood over Emily, gripping the child's arm too tightly. Emily's little face was red with tears, her tiny hands shaking as she clutched a torn drawing. Melissa raised her hand as if to strike her again. Daniel's bags hit the floor. "Melissa!" His voice thundered through the house. Melissa froze, her eyes wide. Emily rushed to him instantly, burying her face in his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel wrapped his arms around her, shielding her trembling body. His whole world spun, anger, betrayal, and disbelief crashing over him in waves. "What are you doing to her?" he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Melissa stuttered. She wasn't listening. She ruined the paper and... "Don't you dare justify this!" Daniel roared. His little girl was whimpering in his arms, clinging to him like she was terrified he'd let go. That image was carved into his soul forever. That night marked the beginning of a storm Daniel never saw coming. The hours after were chaos. He locked himself in Emily's room, comforting her until she fell asleep in his arms. But his mind never rested. He replayed everything, Melissa's hand raised, Emily's terrified eyes, the countless times he dismissed his gut instincts that something was wrong. He realized with guilt that he had left Emily alone too often, trusting Melissa blindly. His long hours at work, his absence, it created a space where harm had been happening right under his nose. By morning, Daniel knew he had to act. He contacted his sister, Claire, who worked as a child counselor. With her guidance, he reported the incident to Child Protection Services. He filed for emergency custody of Emily and removed Melissa from the house. Melissa tried to fight back, pleading at first, then raging, accusing Daniel of betrayal. But Daniel was unmoved. His daughter's safety was not up for negotiation. The weeks that followed were heavy. Emily carried invisible scars. She had nightmares, waking up screaming for her father. She became withdrawn, flinching at sudden movements. She no longer sang her songs or drew her colorful pictures. Daniel's heart broke every time he saw her like that. But he refused to give up. Every day, he worked to rebuild her trust in the world. He cooked her favorite breakfasts. He read her bedtime stories until she drifted off. He took her to therapy sessions with Claire, where Emily slowly began to speak about what she endured. The hardest moment came one evening when Emily whispered, "Daddy, do you still love Mommy?" Daniel paused, tears welling in his eyes. He knelt beside her and held her tiny hands. "I love the idea of what Mommy was supposed to be," he said softly. "But what she did was wrong. And I will never, ever let anyone hurt you again. That's my promise." Emily hugged him tightly, as if those words were the first bricks in rebuilding her fragile world. Months passed. Melissa faced legal consequences, but Daniel's focus was on healing Emily. Slowly, rays of light returned. One morning, Daniel found her sitting at the kitchen table with crayons. For the first time in months, she was drawing. The picture was simple but powerful. A house, the sun, and two stick figures holding hands, one big, one small. On top, she wrote, "Me and Daddy." Daniel broke down in tears. He realized then that while their lives had been shattered, love and patience were stitching them back together. The story ends not with bitterness, but with a message. We don't always know what battles are being fought behind closed doors. Sometimes, the people we trust most are the ones who can cause the deepest harm. But we also have the power to stop cycles of pain, to protect the innocent, and to rebuild broken lives with love. Daniel's life was turned upside down the day he came home early. But in that tragedy, he discovered the strength of a father's love, and the unshakable bond between him and his daughter.